think a lot of us are not maintaining ourselves and we just don't know it.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, what are those practices? Maybe your car isn't broken down, but it's breaking down.
Yeah, and you need to check in.
And you need to check it in, right? So I think a lot of us are like, a lot of us wait till we're depleted to maintain, opposed to like having practices throughout our day that sustain us.
Yeah.
And so for me, my biggest goal right now is to develop routines, so I don't have to take. I'm not saying anything against the 2 p.m. bad, right?
Okay.
But so I don't feel like I need one, right? I'm able to keep going because I was in a rut. I was writing for a campaign this week. I just didn't have it. I was like, bro, I've been sitting at this computer for like an hour. It's just not giving what it needs to give. But I was thinking about my day. My day, I really didn't like have any practices that made me feel well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, my morning routine wasn't really the thing. I didn't do it that morning. I kind of just hopped out of bed and went into work mode. And it was like, you didn't like sustain yourself first.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to maintenance, a lot of us kind of have to remind ourselves that, again, like it's not like after you've been depleted or after things are going crazy. It's more about putting things that are preliminary to make sure that you are like maintained, opposed to like having to like, that you are maintaining opposed to having to maintain. If that makes any sense. So I think that's been like my journey in this particular season of just figuring out how can I like just be consistently well. And maybe that's euphoric, but like just to be consistently or more consistently well. And the last part, I think for me especially, and a lot of creators probably can relate, when you're constantly, because even I feel like I'm constantly on a chopping block, right? Like you're constantly being critiqued, right? You're constantly like having to sell yourself. But I think that's, in the one hand, it's kind of cute when you're selling yourself and it's working, right? Like I sold myself to this client or to this brand or to this whatever, and they liked it and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I think something about that weighs at like whatever the thing that creates confidence. I think it weighs at that in people, to be honest. You know what I mean? I think it kind of can like start to gnaw at the fact that I have to keep presenting myself to be accepted, to be critiqued, to be rejected possibly. And so I feel like there's something we have to do, especially as Black people, to like affirm ourselves. Yeah. Because I think we're constantly putting ourselves in positions to be affirmed by others. And in society, it's kind of said that's just how your life is gonna be, 10 times harder. People are gonna tell you what you deserve, what your value is. And I think it's like, and maybe this is a question for real. My first question on here. But I have like a question like I guess like what could we do to like affirm ourselves in the midst of like seeking, I don't want to say affirmation, but still seeking other people to like do for us or give to us or fund this or have this or approve this or accept this. Like what does that look like?
First thing I thought of it was just like the artist's way. This is a book by Julia Cameron who talks about like the fact that we're all creators and we're all creating and we're like this reflection of the creator, but when we have so much going on in our brains, it's really important that we dump things out and have space for that. And one of the practices, or two of the practices essentially, is that every morning you do your morning pages. So as soon as you write, no matter what the fuck it is, you write 3 pages of whatever is on your mind when you first wake up. Just pour it out. It don't even gotta make sense. You be like, I don't even wanna write, and you write that for 3 pages. So you have like a space where you just dump out. And then when you do that consistently, it starts to clear up so much space in your mind. And you start to be able to have like God just really like just starts to pour through you. And it's the most beautiful thing. Like I'm highly recommend 10 out of 10. And the other practice is taking yourself on artist dates. So thinking of yourself as an artist in the way that you like, when you go on a date, you think, okay, like I gotta look cute, I gotta do all this stuff, I'm about to present myself to this person, but you are the person that you're presenting yourself to. So choosing a day once a week where you're like, I'm spending complete and utter time with myself as an artist, like as the creator, and I'm getting to like, what does the artist want? Like how does the creator want to, engage with whatever's happening? And it could be to aid your art, to aid your creation, or it could just be that restoration and having that routine of every day I pour and dump out all that's been on my mind. And I know that once a week I'm spending complete and total time that's protected. Nobody's FaceTiming me. I'm not on it. Because imagine if you was on a date and somebody's FaceTiming. The fuck? We're on a date. So you don't FaceTime nobody. It's not like everybody else is around or involved. It's like really that sacred time of like I'm spending complete time with the creator, which is myself.
I love both of those.
Do y'all know? Go ahead, friend. I was just gonna say, I think what she said informs what I was about to say, because I just did a talk with some kids in Kentucky, and it's funny what you said. There are questions that nobody gives a fuck about. Like, what would you say to someone who is trying to chase their dreams, but it never fails someone asked that question? And the question came up of like doing for others in efforts to like build for self. And I just kept coming back to the point where, like, you just have to know like who you are and set boundaries and compartmentalize. This is one thing for me to be, for especially in the respect that we do, is one thing for me to have these things set aside for me to pay my bills and for me to do the things, but there's also space for me to compartmentalize and have my bare minimum of what I need to sustain myself, so I can focus on how do I want to present myself, how do I want to make sure people are coming to me correct and want to align with me, and not extending myself past that and having the self-discipline to do that. But you can only do that when you are aware of what the artist wants, when you are like in tune, or you have dumped out enough for the right things to be in. And so a book that I read, I think I gave to everybody in this room. I think I might have a copy. If not, I'll just give you one. But The War of Art.
Yes.
Not the,
I've read that book 3 times.
It's amazing. It's fantastic.
I just keep going back.
But what?
It's at your house.
That's crazy, because I thought I gave it to you.
No, you
I gave it to you with that
notebook.
notebook. I brought you the notebook and that Jesus notebook that I gave you.
Let's talk about this.
Okay. Anyways, but what spoke to me most in that book was like when I'm having these blocks, and for me, especially when it comes to poetry, I always have this weird like relationship with it. Like I'm almost scared to do it after I haven't done it in a long time, because I feel like the last time that I did it, it was so bomb, like, and I have to top myself and people have this expectation of me. But one thing that it said is like, one thing you have to get in the daily practice of is sitting down to do the work. And so even if you never do it, it's just like what you said. If I'm sitting down, if I'm getting into the habit of what my artistic thing is and doing it, even if it's like bullshit, I'm just writing 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. I'm getting in the habit of it. It becomes easier and easier every day. You sit down to do it, and at some point, the muses will get in connection with you and flow through you. So it's all of that stuff wrapped in it. Like you have to really engage in self-discipline, because I think like that's the piece everybody's missing. Like, oh, I am a creative, or I'm so talented, I have all these things, but do you have the discipline to be consistent at it? Do you have the discipline to put boundaries up even when the money looks good, or even if it feels good for a second, or even also have the wherewithal within yourself to know like, I'm in a place where I absolutely need to do this, but I absolutely know like what is for this job and what is for me. And I don't necessarily give a fuck what people think about me for doing it, because this is between me and God, my decision to have to do this thing. But I know what I'm going to what I'm going to learn from this, what I'm going to take away from this, and what I'm going to put down and leave here, and I'm going to have to do this again. You know what I'm saying? So it's really about having that confidence. And I think that's with anything, like once a lot of us wouldn't have been in a position to where we're working for ourselves or being creative if we didn't have that affirming event, or if we didn't have that thing that someone saw enough in us to validate this in us in a way that we could be paid to do this, like as a creative for the rest of our life. We weren't affirmed, we weren't confident that we could do that thing until having that moment. And so unfortunately, we kind of, at least in the nascence of our careers as creatives, we allow that to inform our each and every decision, when in fact we can start exercising that ourselves. And the artist day is a really like cool thing, because when people ask me about it, I keep just saying, you gotta get in tune with your motherfucking star player. And like, but how do you do that? Like it's another thing to like talk about what are the actual steps that we take to get in tune with self. And I think even before I heard that, for me it was like reconsidering your circle, who's around you, who's pouring into you. Reconsidering your daily habits, like how are you pouring into you? Are you aware of what your values are? Are you aware of what your passions are? Are you aware of what your strengths are? Or do you have a bunch of shit in your head that you have not dumped out, that's just living up here, that you think you kind of know, but you haven't spent any intimate time with it to really know it?
Come on, that's good.
That's good.
Do you guys